Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm your co-host, Wendy Papasan.
And I'm Sarah Reynolds, and you get another treat of just Wendy and I. So lucky treats. You guys. No, we do miss you, Say. Poor Say. She's like, what?
She's on spring break. She's having the time of her life. Actually, It's a really good lesson because she said last year she basically canceled their spring break because they had two really big clients that neither of them panned out. And so this year, come hell or high water, she's going to go on spring break with her family. So Seychelles, we love you. We hope you're having a great time. What are they doing? They're skiing or I forget. Somewhere fun.
Something fun that the three of them are doing and focusing on family, which we encourage because, again, it's not just about a big business, but an even bigger life. And so Say is living that by example today, which we want her to be doing. And today we're going to talk about the big business part of things, although some of this can be applied to big life as well. But we are going to talk about shift tactics. So when changes happen, when the market shifts, which is actually pretty constant, but sometimes you have a significant market shift. So for us in the real estate industry, many of our markets are down about 40% year over year in number of homes sold. 40%.
Yikes. Yikes. Yes.
Yeah.
That was a tiny scream.
Yeah, seriously. Like that's significant of a shift, guys. 40%. If you cut 40% of whatever industry you're in terms of number of sales. Like, can you imagine if Amazon today had 40% of their orders cut?
Or you cut off 40% of your body parts?
Yeah.
You're dead almost.
Yeah. Seriously. You would have to really do these shift tactics for that.
I don't know where that came from.
Do these apply to body parts?
I'm sorry. I'm gross.
So we are going to talk about the shift tactics. When you see a shift, when you see changes, the quicker that you can lean in to these tactics, the better you will be able to weather the change, weather the shift. And so we are going to talk about the basic tactics that you need to focus on. So
and shout out to the book that these came from. Yeah, shout out. Gary Keller, Dave Jenks, Papasan, the lovely and talented, super handsome, extremely hot Papasan, co-author of The Shift. That's the book, right? It's called Shift, not The Shift. Shift. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's where these came from. Yep. First one is what?
Get real, get right.
Get right.
Get right. Set your mind and take the right actions. Right?
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, I think a lot of people struggle with accepting reality when a shift happens. I think so many times, especially, which I can relate to from, Gary has been sort of warning the real estate industry of a shift coming for about 8 years. So I think,
such a visionary. Good thing he doesn't listen to this.
Seriously, like which one not to listen to? This one, Gary. No, I think he knows all the tactics, so he doesn't need to listen. No, but he's been saying that for 8 years. So I think a lot of us, when we've heard him say it, and then we've been like, well, it didn't fully happen. We've had changes, but it didn't fully happen to where a number of sales got cut. And so I think it's sort of like the boy that cried wolf sometimes, but the wolf is there now.
Yeah.
So it's like the quicker that you can look reality in the face and say, this is happening, the better off you're going to be.
Well, and do you remember like that old, I don't know, cartoon or this idea of like the ostrich putting their head in the sand? Mm-hmm. I don't even know where that comes from because I don't think they actually really do that. But that's kind of what you don't want to do. You don't want to be that ostrich who's just has the ability to put their head up and look around and face what's going on. But instead, they're just burying their head in the sand and ignoring it. So you need to get real and get right.
Yep.
Number 2, you want to remargin your business. Okay. Manage your expenses tightly. I know both you and I have done this. I know you're doing a lot of this right now.
I am. Yeah. And I would encourage everyone to get help if you need it. Like, don't, for me, I have, we did about 34 million in revenue last year, which is phenomenal. And I'll keep saying that because I'm not sure what this year will be. Remember 2022 when I did 34 million?
That's incredible. 34 million. What the heck?
So it's a massive business, right? 340 plus team members. It's a massive business. And I've never.
It's 1 million. What is that? What is that? 100,000 for each person, something like that. What is that? 34 million divided by 340.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a nice number.
That is. I think the key there for me is, and one of the things that I needed to not put my head in the sand about is I've never led a company this size through a decline in market of 40%. And so, when what is it? The more counsel you have, the more safety you have. So if you're like me, to where you've never been in this situation, your company, your empire is of a size now that you've never been in this situation before, get help. Raise your hand, raise the red flag. I mean, I'm having a call with one of my coaches today. I mean, he blocked a lot of time for me to look at every P&L we already did multiple exercises of looking at expenses, but I'm getting help. I'm asking questions. So do not be afraid to raise your hand and say, I need help with this, because it's so important. How you manage your expenses will either help you get through the shift or not. And so you've got to make sure to manage those expenses.
Because for those of you that are optimistic, like me, this isn't going to end anytime soon. Yeah. I don't know if you guys were listening to Jerome Powell this week. This podcast typically comes out a couple weeks afterwards, so it might have been a couple weeks ago. But Jerome Powell was really like, hey, you know what? We're going to have to initiate stronger methods to curb inflation. So just kidding about what we said about raising it 0.25. We're probably going to have to double that, if not more. So, and that means it's not going away. It's not going to get better by the spring selling season. It's going to go through 2023. That's my feeling. Yep. And then if we're lucky by 2024, and that's kind of what history shows us, is we've got these periods of downturns that typically last about 18 months, 18 months to 2 years. And so by 2024 we'll be lucky. So it's not going to get better this summer. So unless you have a massive chest of reserves, which if you do and you don't want to cut your expenses, great. That's fine, and don't think it's just going to get better and better. And for those of you that aren't really tracking your numbers, but have like a sinking, sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, you need help. You need to talk to somebody. You need to figure out, what is your business really going to look like this year? Because, real estate and any business, it's a career. It's not a year.
Yep.
It's a career. It's not a year. So it's like, what other business can you make $34 million in?
Yep.
Right? And have a great quality of life. And so, what are you going to do to make sure that your career doesn't end this year?
Yep. So I think it's so important. If you, many businesses have gone out of business from leaning on optimism. And so let's say we're wrong. Let's say June, all of a sudden June hits and it's completely bonkers again for a number of sales. Woo! Well, you'll be in a better position in terms of profitability, no matter what. Mm-hmm. No matter what. Mm-hmm. And so there is never harm in looking at your expenses and making. Yeah, there's no downside. No downside. But there is downside to overly optimistic and continuing to spend money that you need to cut, which then leads us to number 3, which these sort of go together, honestly. Mm-hmm. Do more with less. So you need to prioritize your leverage and focus it. I mean, this is all my time right now, are the expenses, and then this number 3, which is you've got to figure out your team members. Is their role focused on a result right now? Is their role focused on helping more families? Is their role, do they know what their what their priorities are, how their job impacts the business, but making sure that can you do more with less? Can you take less people, do the same? Can you take less technology, do the same? Like, you want to look at everything, do more with less, do more with less.
Yep. And then just make sure everybody knows exactly how they can win right now, because I think a lot of us feel like, ooh, we're not, Sarah was just telling me about a conversation she had with a friend of ours who had, no closings in February. And she runs a pretty decent sized team. That's tough. That is really hard. Yep. And, if your operations team has nothing to do in terms of closings right now, then guess what? The way they win right now is they're getting referrals for the team. And if you don't have a referral system built for your ops team on how to get referrals, then now's the time to build it.
Yep.
And if you aren't getting reviews for the team, then now that's how they win. Yep. Our goal now is 80% of all closings get a review.
So good.
It's a big goal. Yeah,
yes.
It's a big goal. They're hitting it 92% this year. Way to go.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
yep.
but they had to build the system around it. Right?
Yes.
They had to build the system around it, which took a while. And then, for your salespeople, maybe they don't have any closings, but maybe they need to really focus on appointments.
Yep.
How many people can they talk to? So, yeah. So let's do more with less. And then number 4, you got find the motivated. So up your lead generation and use effective MOFers. So MOFers are make offers for immediate response. So if you had 2 hours of lead gen in your schedule, guess what? You got to up it. So maybe you got to increase it by 50%. If your market's down by 40%, then you probably got to increase your lead gen by 40%.
Yep.
Right? So now all of a sudden you're lead generating for 3 hours a day, right? Yep. And then use effective MOFers. What's the market of the moment?
Yep.
What are the messages that you can get out to your buyers and sellers that are going to actually help them make a move?
Yeah. So you want to look at, okay, if the 60% of the market that has stayed, that are moving, but that are continuing to move, what are their circumstances? What are their problems that you need to solve? What's keeping them up at night? Do you have a program? Do you have a solution for them? And so that's what you're looking for. You're looking for who are the motivated, and are you a solution provider to the motivated? So it might be, like move up buyers, for example. Unless they have a significant increase in their family size, we're seeing less move up buyers, right?
Yep.
And so because they have a great interest rate on their current home, they don't want to purchase a more
prices
expensive
have gone
home
up. They're living
rate.
in their move up house already. Yeah. All the things.
And so whereas like someone that has a job transfer, they have to move, right? So what programs are you providing to someone that has a job transfer, right? What are the problems that they're having? So you want to be thinking along those lines in terms of finding the motivated.
Well, another good example of that. Well, I just want to just one shout out. We have an agent on our team who works with investors, and we've worked with a lot of investors over the years, but it's harder and harder to get the cash flow numbers here. So we have made a list of all of the assumable mortgages that we can find. Of properties that are in the MLS and others, and then we're just marketing to that. So hey, you know what? You want a 7% interest rate? Guess what? We've got a list of 3.5%, and prices are going down.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So smart. Number 5, get to the table. You got to get to the table, and you have to get in front of those that are looking to move. So that's how you do that with finding the motivated. But then once you get to the table, you've got to master your conversion conversations. When there's less sales, the 2 things that have to increase are conversations. So as Wendy said, you got to increase your lead gen. The second is your ability to convert those that you get in front of. You can, by increasing your conversion just by 5-10%, that will make a significant difference to the number of people that you can help. And so how often are you spending time on those key conversations that have to do with converting someone to work with you? So it should be in your schedule, working on those conversations.
Yep. And that's scripting.
Yes.
And number 6 is help sellers adjust. You got to use market data to reset expectations. Okay, so here's how it works. When a market shifts, the buyers figure it out first because they're looking at properties every day, right? Every single day.
Yep.
They're getting properties from you in their email. They're on their app at night while they're watching TV. They know what's going on. Second people that figure it out is the buyer agents. They're the ones that figure it out next. Then the listing agents figure it out. Hey, there's a shift going on. And then guess who's last? The seller. Because you sit down with the seller and they say, oh, well, such and such. This literally happened to me yesterday. I was talking to some friends of mine. Oh, yeah, well, this property, I don't know, it was 3 months ago. No, it wasn't 3 months ago. It was 18 months ago or a year ago. Mm-hmm. Their property sold for such and such. No, sorry. Yeah. So you got to use market data to reset expectations. I mean, if you were ever going to be obsessed with going to some of these economic, like I'm sure you all have people in your markets who are talking about what's going on. And if you were ever going to be obsessed about going to those, now's the time to do that. Right. Yep. You need to know more than ever. Yep.
Yep. And I think the big thing about market data during a shift is number of actives. That you need to make sure that your sellers know about, which of course leads us into the next tactic. But that is so important. They need to know because so many times sellers are going to rely on 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or in Wendy's case, 18 months ago, right? And so that's not the market of today, right? 3 months ago and a shift is completely different than today. So you've got to look at active, not solds, and make sure that they're competitive, which is what number 7 tactic is, which is pricing ahead of the market. So that's what that means. In a shift, during a shift, pricing is going down. As pricing goes down, the seller that actually leads the market will always get more money than the seller that follows the market down. And so you want to make sure that your sellers, that your listings are pricing ahead of the market, not following it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you saw that. I'm sure you probably, we just had, I think our last listing sell that went on the market last summer. And it was because we had several sellers who just we could not really get them to understand that you needed to readjust prices dramatically. And so we eventually got the job done, but it was hard and painful. And they for sure got less money. Yeah. When you have a listing and they start to get all those calls from these alternative finance companies or, then you know it's a problem. So it's a problem. Yep. All right. So then number 8 is to stand out from the competition. So I think this is in a couple ways. First of all, as a team or as a real estate agent, you have to look different, act different, right? There's a lot of people that have joined the real estate industry in the last, 2 years. It's insane. 50% growth or something like that. Yeah. So how are you differentiating yourself? You can't just put a Post-it note on the front door of the house with a price on it and hope to sell it. Like you have to be different. You have to have a unique value proposition. And then how is a property standing out from the competition, right? Are you going back to, you know what? We got to work on the curb appeal. We can't just, again, put it on the market and know that it will sell. So how are you standing out from the competition?
Yep. No, that's so good. Yep. You have 3 seconds. The scroll time is 3 seconds. So that's how much time each of your listings you have to capture someone's attention. So pictures, headlines, super important to at least get them to pause. So I'm always telling the marketing team, we got to get them to pause. Get them to pause the scroll.
It's like that. Have you ever seen some of those funny listings where there's like a dinosaur, the big blow up dinosaur in them? Have you ever seen that?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Randomly to get them to stop. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Lots of things people are using to. Yeah, but it's important. It's true.
It works.
Yep. Number 9 is create buyer urgency. So in a shifting market, that means there's less buyers. And so a big part of our role is creating buyer urgency. And I think I have found that you do this the best through storytelling. And so using stories of buyers that bought at not good times with quotation marks, that what appeared to be not good times, which turned into amazing wealth building opportunities, which is what right now is. Right.
Yep.
And so are you telling stories over the last decade of things that you've seen? You know, I bought my first house in 2007 when a lot of people would say was a horrible time to buy a house. And it's one of our biggest items now on our net worth tracker is that house. And so what appeared in a short term
that
to be
you kept as a rental because of your friend Wendy.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
And so all of that will lead to you telling stories of wealth building through no matter what time a buyer purchased real estate is important. And so helping them overcome, it's normal to be afraid, but use the fear to create action to make the decision. And they need you as the professional to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stories are definitely the best. I mean, one of the best things that happened to us last fall was we merged with another agent in our market center who's a very experienced agent, Gary Gentry, the first Keller Williams agent. And we were just having kind of it was last fall when everybody was in a pretty bad funk, you know. And Gary Gentry just says, he drops this bomb. He says, yeah, well, you know, when I bought my house out in Barton Creek, it had been on the market for 48 months. Before I bought it.
Wow.
Sarah, you can't see it, but Sarah's mouth is literally dropping. Yeah. And it's just really good perspective. And I know that's a story that every single agent on my team has been sharing with all of their buyers is like, yeah, well, you know what? We're lucky enough to have an agent on our team that's been doing this for 40 years. And he was telling us the story about how when he bought his house, it had been on the market for 48 months. And for those of you that don't know, Barton Creek is like one of the hottest areas in Austin, literally the hottest area in Austin. So it's a good story. Yeah, really good story. Yep. All right. So then number 10, we've got think creatively about financing, right? There's lots of ways to skin a cat these days. Hopefully you guys are reaching out to all of your lender partners, right? We have very, very special lender partners, and we also have relationships with other people who have other products. And again, if you've got time on your hand, go have lunch with some of these lenders, figure out what their products are. And then there are other ways to do creative financing. You've got owner financing, right?
Well, and also your example of finding properties that have a lower assumable interest rate. Yeah. I mean, that's a brilliant example of thinking creatively, both on getting listings and then also on selling them, is so powerful. But yeah, you want to know different financing programs. And I just have to say for all of our listeners, Wendy's showing example of leverage. So it's important to have big business and even bigger life. I think you have cleaners there, or
no, these are it's my
landscape.
They're landscaping people. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah.
No, you shouldn't apologize. Yeah. I think it's important. It's good for our listeners to hear because as Gary has taught us, if you are doing a certain role in your life, that's your dollar per hour, right? Yeah. So Wendy's dollar per hour is much better served than doing her own landscaping. So she's showing us, she's showing us by example today. So, or letting us listen.
Let's go.
To the example. Okay. Number 11, master the market of the moment. Master the market of the moment. So a good example of that would be during the downturn, the last big shift that we had. I went all in on short sales. That was a market of the moment, sellers that needed our help at that time. So what is the current market of the moment, and are you becoming a master of that? That means sometimes you've got to learn to be a realtor differently, learn different skill sets that you don't have right now, but leaning into whatever the market is of the moment, become a master of that market.
Well, and this is a time to plug in to your, if you're in real estate, it's a time to plug into your offices. I know a lot of us got really disconnected after COVID. And it's interesting. I was at my 2-week post-op for my hip, and I ended up getting into this conversation with with my physician's assistant. This is completely random, but very applicable. And she was just asking me, because I was just explaining to her how teams work, and she's like, she asked me, she's like, Wendy, how are these little agencies, real estate agencies that aren't affiliated with a big company, even surviving right now? Like, how do they know what to do? And I thought it was a really smart question, and it's really true. It's like, and if you're struggling, tap in, or if you're even thinking about, maybe you're a smaller agency, think about, joining forces with someone, because this is the time to really, tap into the knowledge that's around you.
Yep. So I think that's what we're already seeing, that, right? A lot of like indies are coming back to Keller Williams, and or making sure that they're aligned with those that they know that they can be successful in. I think that's one of the most important jobs of a leader, is to make sure that your people are in a position to meet their goals. And many times it's who you surround yourself with, right? Yeah. And so who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you following leaders that know what to do, that know how to navigate a shift? Are you talking to those like Gary Gentry that have the experience? If you're not, get in a position to be able to do that. Get into a company, get into an office where you can do that. So,
Yep. All right. Number 12 is bulletproof your transactions. Okay. This is just as important as mastering your conversion conversations. It's the same idea. Is every lead is really important. Every closing is really important. So I think the national statistic is about one out of every 4 closings falls apart. And if you're already down 4% and you're losing, 25% of the 60% that's left, that's devastating. So you really have to bulletproof your transaction. You have to make sure that everything closes, right? Everything's got to close.
Yep. Before you used to, a contract is always an offer, and a contract's always a good thing in a shift, but it also could be a bad thing because you're taking the house off the market. And so I used to always tell my sellers, and I teach my team now, is like, you want to have that conversation with the seller, is like, is this contract worth taking your house off the market? And if it's not right now, can we make it worth it? So meaning, talking to the lender, making sure that they're fully qualified to purchase the home, all of those things. We're even right now really leaning into like inspections ahead of going on the market, to where if we can get the items fixed ahead of time, then that would cause less buyers to walk away. So all of those things are what you want to be looking at. If you follow these 12 tactics, you are going to be okay and be able to continue building a big business and an even bigger life. So let me just run through them real quick as we close it out. We've got get real, get right. So set your mind and take the right actions. Remargin your business. You got to manage those expenses tightly. Do more with less. So prioritizing your leverage and making sure that they're focused on the most important things. Find the motivated. So up your lead generation numbers and use effective programs that solve people's problems. Number 5, get to the table, master your conversion conversations, your scripting. Number 6, help sellers adjust by using market data. Number 7, price ahead of the market. Number 8, stand out from the competition. Number 9, create buyer urgency. And then the last 3, but so important, think creatively about financing, master the market of the moment. And then once you've got those transactions, make sure to bulletproof them. All of these tactics, as you do them, will help you in terms of the impact that you make, the empire that you're building. And remember, when you're going through a shift, it's very stressful. So make sure as you're building that empire in the shift that you don't sacrifice your life at the same time. So keep your health a priority, keep your family a priority, and that will lead to you also having an even bigger life. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.